Hi everyone, it's Jen again, and I'm probably going to do something a little bit different this week with my video. There's something that's been on my mind for a little while now, and I've been debating on whether or not I wanted to talk about it because I'm a little afraid of not conveying my idea with enough clarity or conciseness to make a point. But it's been on my mind, so I feel like I do want to bring it up. While I'm talking, I think I'm going to start prepping this artwork for the animated sequence for when Saladre is introduced as the companion. But this is what's kind of gotten me thinking for a while. And you can see that this comment was made 20 days ago by Yuffie, and I'm not trying to single this person out. I'm actually very, very flattered by the amount of communication that this person has given me, the detailed feedback and amount of time that this person has given me to comb over my projects and just give me a lot of feedback, a lot of very detailed feedback, and I'm very grateful for that. And I feel like I've made a connection with this person because of this, and I guess that's why I wanted to address this comment. It's very flattering what they had to say about me, saying that I seem like a kind and humble, hardworking person. So first of all, I want to thank this person for all the feedback that they've given me, all the time and thought that they've shared with me. I really feel like they have connected to my work on some level, and it means a lot to me. And so I really appreciate your feedback. I don't know if you watch any of my videos, but thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I also want to say that I think this person is also pretty brave and passionate about leaving the amount of comments that they do. They say here, I felt so insensitive in retrospect leaving such a mixed comment. I appreciate your honesty, and I appreciate your willingness to just be honest with me. I feel that you wouldn't do so unless you felt genuine and passionate about what you had to say. And so thank you for being brave enough to write me. And in some ways, I think that giving somebody an honest critique when you have respect for them can be kind of scary, because you don't want that person to misunderstand you or take the criticism the wrong way. But I really feel that this person has genuine good intentions towards my work, and they've put a lot of time and a lot of thought into their comments and into trying out my games. So I am just very grateful for that. So let me start with that. This word here, humble, kind of stood out to me and kind of took me on a trip, I guess, down memory lane as I've been kind of working through my burnout. Just trying to figure out, what my thought processes are going through when I have these kind of like cycles of depression that are related to my productivity. And I think I can trace back when I started having these feelings to when I decided that I was going to pursue art seriously. When I was probably all growing up, and then especially when I was like in middle school and high school, I was drawing like hundreds and hundreds of pages of comics, and the internet was very like new back then. It was dial-up and GeoCities, and there wasn't a whole lot of places to like post artwork. So I wasn't like sharing my comics with anybody except for like my closest friends, like maybe a handful of people at most. And it didn't matter to me. I was just enjoying drawing them mainly for myself. And it wasn't something that I thought about like pursuing professionally really for a long time. And what changed for me was that my dad had an acquaintance who was working for Fox Studios on that film Anastasia at the time, and he wanted to show this friend my artwork and see if they had any suggestions for me. And so this person took a look at my work, and in retrospect, I don't think they thought I was particularly talented or remarkable with my skill level. They were just impressed by like how much art I had. And so they said, you know, go to college, hone your skills, and you will have a job in an animation studio. They probably just felt this way based on the fact that I had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of comics. And, you know, not a lot of high schoolers were doing that at the time. So this finally made art seem like it would be a viable career path going forward. And so I started working on portfolio and applying to art schools. And boy, was that kind of a rude awakening for me. I, was my school had a good academic program, especially I think for a public school. It was excellent. My English and literature classes were, I think, top tier. It more than adequately prepared me to do like term papers and all that kind of stuff when I went on to college. Like those seemed pretty easy. But the art department was not well funded. We had like little nubs of these colored pencils that we would have to use a little X-Acto blade to sharpen because it would no longer like fit in the pencil sharpener. Like that's how strapped for cash the art department was. And I still think that that traditional art is undervalued, severely undervalued in our education system, because I don't think that people understand how good it is for your brain. Drawing is just an excellent exercise for your mind, and as far as a discipline goes, it will teach you a lot of like tenacity, persistence, patience. These are all skills that translate to all kinds of different work, and drawing is, I believe, the hardest thing that I've ever tried to learn. And I think that having those struggles and trying to gain proficiency in that skill has really like set me up to be able to pursue like all kinds of other things, learning all kinds of other things with more tenacity and patience than I would have if I hadn't pursued drawing. So I don't regret it ever, even though like I don't have any plans of doing art as anything more than a hobby now. I still see it as a very valuable skill, even though I'm not applying that very particular skill professionally. I believe that it's helped form who I am and made me an avid and capable learner going forward. Anyways, back to this word humble. There seems to be almost like a masochistic kind of mindset with developing artists. At least that was the culture, I feel like, when I went into when I was looking into applying to colleges and when I was in college. Everybody that I interacted with, teachers, I don't know, portfolio reviewers, scouters, people in the industry, besides that one person that I talked to at Fox Studio, I don't know if they're like bitter or if they are, I don't know what their problem is. Honestly, I feel like the way that they treated me, and I'm sure a lot of aspiring artists, was like downright abusive. That there's this attitude that you need to basically hate yourself, hate your art in order to improve. Like, how dare you have any level of satisfaction with where you're at or any self-confidence in what you're doing. You need to be brought down a peg now, pronto. Like, I don't know. Some of the disdain that people treated me and my artwork and my portfolio with was just so borderline, just like, I don't know, sociopathic, I think, in some ways. Like, I don't understand how you could treat another person that way, who's just aspiring to do what you're doing. Like, I don't know where the animosity comes from. But there's this kind of self-perpetuating culture because so many of those artists were kind of like hammered down by the institutions and the people who supposedly had all the answers. That it was almost like this race to the bottom of like who can, I don't know, feel the crappiest about themselves. And it's not really I have a hard time coming up with a way to describe this, but I guess as somebody who's also struggled with body dysmorphia at times, and had kind of like a lot of people around me and my family were always commenting about people's weight and being down upon themselves about their weight, and so I kind of fell into those kind of things too, and that's what it kind of reminds me of. It reminds me of like this like expectation to be dissatisfied and to be insecure, and it's almost like fostered, but it's like to what benefit? The teachers would probably say, well, you have to be humbled in order to take criticism, which sounds reasonable on the surface, but let's go back to the kind of the body dysmorphia and eating disorder comparison. Let's say that I'm anorexic, and then somebody tells me that I could stand to lose a few pounds. And then they tell me, oh, and you can do this exercise and clean eating regimen. And what they're saying is not necessarily directly harmful. There might be some comments that are said in good faith and trying to be helpful, and then there might be some comments of people who are just borderline abusive. You're fat. When you have a low self-worth, you won't hear the, healthy eating exercise in a way that I think is constructive. It will blend in with you're fat narrative, because you're so fragile and self-deprecating in that mindset that everything just becomes another kind of flog, that whenever you're feeling down about yourself, that those tapes just kind of all blend together of that you're not worthy, you are worthless, you must do XYZ, to become a worthwhile person. So when your self-esteem is that low, yeah, you might get some results. You might be motivated to lose weight or to practice and become better artist. But are you happy? Are you being your best? Are you doing your best work? Are you being your best healthiest self? Are you maximizing your potential as an artist? I would say no. I would say you're getting some short-term results, but it's never going to be good enough, because at your core you are fragile and you are self-loathing. And for the next 10, 20 years, I was fragile and self-loathing. And I would read criticisms, and I would just use those criticisms as another whip to bring myself down a peg, to remind myself that I was worthless and that I just need to keep working and working and working and working. But there was no end goal. There was no becoming satisfied. And even when I would get, somebody who enjoyed my work or liked my work, it would still get drowned out by the negative tapes. It doesn't matter if I would get like more likes than dislikes, I guess. The dislikes would always weigh, they would have the supreme weight. And then any comment that was like, oh, I like this, I think your art is nice, wouldn't hear it at all, And I was really deeply unhappy with myself and my art. Even when I was working professionally, so supposedly I finally had some credentials with that, right? Had some outside validation. It didn't change my self-perception. And I feel like it wasn't until I took that long break from doing art and I came back to it, and it was just for fun, it was for myself, and I gave myself permission to actually like my own art. You're like, hey, it's not perfect, it's not for everybody, but I like what I'm doing. It's a reflection of who I am, and I'm doing it for fun. And I'm satisfied with that. Would I like to improve? Will I keep improving as I keep working? I think yes. When I was young and I was happy with what I was doing and happy with myself, it didn't stop me from improving. I kept improving on my own. I didn't need to have somebody tell me that I need to feel bad about myself in order to improve, right? And now I feel like I can finally take criticism the way I feel like is the most beneficial to myself, and I can really appreciate and be thankful to the people who give me criticism. I give myself permission to disagree with their comments, but I give it full consideration. I try to think of where that person is coming from in the criticism that they're giving. I appreciate that they were, that they felt strongly enough to take the time, to play my game and to write out the response, to reach out to me in some ways and hold out their hand. Like, I see it as being a connection. And I wouldn't be able to feel that way if I was down on myself. I think it comes from a place of confidence that I can truly come to appreciate comments, the criticism. And I don't think that this is recognized enough in art communities, in even like creation, like development communities. There is this kind of attitude that, give me your worst. Like you have to be able to build a strong outer shell that you can take abusive comments. I reject that. I'm sensitive, and that is one of the things that I feel is a strong suit. And I want to encourage people to interact with each other respectfully. And I think you can give and take criticism in a way that still is respectful to other people. So if somebody gives me a downright abusive comments, which I'm fortunate to not have gotten in a very long time, I can ignore them. And I wouldn't be able to differentiate the difference between constructive and well-meaning criticism and abusive criticism if I didn't have confidence, because everything would feel the same, because I am self-abusive. And some people might think, oh, well, what about those people who get so defensive that they can't take any criticism? Are you enabling their behavior? Are you saying that you should be so, let them get away with being so arrogant and vain? I would argue that people who cannot take any criticism because they are conceited or full of themselves are not actually confident. That's not true confidence. That is an inability to come to terms with their own fragility. Much like narcissistic behaviors, it comes from a place of extreme insecurity, this inability to take any criticism. So I think that people should be encouraged to be confident in what they're doing, and I think that confidence actually helps people take criticism in a constructive way. I think when you can't take criticism, it actually comes from a place of vulnerability, and that unwillingness to listen is because you're too fragile to listen. You can't be challenged because your sense of confidence is not strong enough. And that doesn't make you a bad person. This theoretical you, I'm not talking about anybody in particular, doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you very, I think, normal person in some ways, because our culture does not encourage sensitivity in a way that is healthy. We discourage it. We look down upon it, and it's hard to come to a place, I think, of true confidence until you can come to terms with your own vulnerability. So I guess where I was trying to get with all of this was just, I want to encourage people to be kind to themselves and to be kind to others. I think being humble is a bit overrated, and I would rather encourage people to be receptive, open-minded, willing to listen and be empathetic and see other people's point of views and consider their perspectives. I would like to think, promoting people to be gracious and kind and to assume the best of others rather than being suspicious of their intentions or assuming that they're trying to be malicious. That is a lot more words than saying be humble. And I don't think most people use the word in the sense of like, you should know your place, or you should have a low opinion of yourself or where you belong. But I think that being encouraging people to be humble was often used against people who were not from an important or recognized role or place in the hierarchy of society. And encouraging people to be humble in some ways was a means of keeping them in their place, to more easily exploit them. So when it comes to perpetuating the humble artist stereotype, that this is, something that all artists should be or should strive for, I just wanted to give my 2 cents on that. So, thank you very much for listening, and again, enjoy that process. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. Strive to be open-minded, receptive, and gracious. Bye now.